The year is 2003. You're a fledgling game developer that has already made two simple Flash games. And while studying your computer science class, you decide to release a game with a little more complexity. A game to further push your skills as a game dev. This is the story of Sky Boys, founder of XGen Studios, and his game that I believe really put him on the map as a Flash game developer, and soon to be indie dev. It's been a long time since '03, and whenever you decide to watch this, one thing will remain consistent. Adobe Flash is very dead. Ending support since 2020, with its exodus gone too, are projects of up-and-coming artists, writers, and programmers. But a fair few of us, those whose earliest gaming memories are made up of Flash games, fought to preserve what we could before it was gone. And personally, I'm glad that we all cared for something so seemingly small in the grand scheme of things. So personal story time. When I was young, I always wanted to be an adult as soon as possible. A desperate want to go my own path throughout life, with resources and relationships that I could call my own. I know for a fact that I'm not alone in wanting this as a kid, and in longing for this self-sufficiency, I took a liking to games where you could take a path through life, and make a name for yourself in worlds crafted for you to do so. It was during my time at home that I started to take an interest into the things you could do on a PC. Having interest in stick figure animations in games, and in RPGs, one day I decided to put the two together and discovered the Flash game I would easily spend the most time playing, even taking it into computer labs when I started school. I think it's safe to assume that's how most people found out about stick RPG back then. Hee funny Flash game uggy. There is a tiny story to the game, being that one day you find yourself getting really tired and suddenly waking up, going from your normal 3D life, and falling into the second dimension, where a tiny world resides. So trying to describe the gameplay here is pretty simple. Being on Flash, that checks out. In essence, stick RPG can be called an abridged day-to-day life simulator, the main goal being to increase your net worth as much as possible. If you die, or run out of time in any other mode other than unlimited, you get a score largely based on total cash. But first, before we do anything, get a pack of cigs for this kid. No, he isn't supposed to have them, but it's okay, you get a skateboard afterwards. Hell yeah. Hold shift to move faster. Big help for the main gameplay loop. Hey look, the main gameplay loop. As I mentioned before, gameplay is pretty simple. Doing most things other than walking around will use up some time for the day. When you're out of hours for the day, you go to your apartment, then press sleep to advance the next day. Sleeping by default will give you 10 HP if you lost any, and you'll advance in the next day with the same hours as when you started every day. There aren't any other ways to advance days other than sleeping, but it gets a little bit more complex later. So what do we do with all these hours? Well, let me explain one more mechanic the game keeps kinda hidden. Karma. The kind of stick life you decide to live will have an effect on your karma, either positive or negative. I'll explain both main options for daily jobs as we get into them, but for now you start as a mixed stick employee. Your job title is mixed slave, which is kinda funny, and it makes a little cash. But what you'll notice is that working a shift takes a huge amount of your time out of your day, and it's not the most fulfilling job to have, as I'm sure most will agree. So to move up in life, you'll need some skills. Skill requirements act as sort of progression gates for money-making opportunities. Some will tell you straight up how much you need, and some won't. Good luck. It's here where you decide if you want an honest job or a not-so-honest job. For good karma, you need 20 intelligence to start, which you can get real fast by spending 20 bucks at university to go to class. Doing so raises your intelligence by 2 every time. Alternatively, you can study for just 1 point of intelligence, but for free. By this point, I hope you can see how, in limited time modes, you might want to manage your time carefully, and we haven't even gotten to how you can upgrade your style of living yet. So you'll get into a loop of work, ask for promotion, go to class, sleep, repeat, until you get to a point where you make plenty of money as is right now. By now, if you want more time in the day, / more to do, then it might be time for you to visit the pawn shop and buy the CD alarm clock. This will give you a tiny sliver extra of time permanently. And if you make an excess of money and want a non-permanent but sustainable upgrade, then go to the convenience store and buy some caffeine pills. Only then will you get the full circle of time available to you. You use 1 sleeping pill a day when you go to sleep, costing $45 each. You need to decide when to start buying them, because even though they only provide a tiny amount of extra time, those tiny amounts become paramount for making the most of every day. If you wanted either the clock or the pills even earlier, say as soon as you start playing, then let's take a visit to the bank. The bank has what you expect a bank to have in real life, just again simplified. You can deposit some cash on hand into your account, where it'll grow bit by bit because of interest. Similarly, if you want a loan, then it'll give you up to $1,000. Use a loan to get at least the CD alarm clock or whatever you might want early on. Just make sure you pay back your loan within 15 days or you'll just die. No, I'm not kidding. You die when you fail to pay back the money you owe to the bank. Seems less than legal, but okay, sure. Interest, as I'm sure you can guess, also affects this, increasing the amount you owe little by little until paid off completely. We'll get to the third option for the bank soon, but as for now, let's talk about the morally questionable things you can do to make money. So going with the bad karma method is a little weird, and arguably a little harder as most instances involve some level of risk, whether to your wealth or your HP. If you want to go pure bad karma the whole time, you can go to the bar and start a bar fight. Doing so initiates the only kind of combat in the game, and spoilers, it's not much to write home about. If you start the game with bar fights, then the only attack you can do is punch. So you and your opponent punch each other till one of you dies. If you ever think you're not going to make it next turn, then pick the runaway option. It never fails and is better than losing a whole run, because you can. If you lose a bar fight, you'll just die. To get more attacks, you need more AP, and to get more AP, you need to build your strength stat. The only option to do so right now is to go to the university and hit the gym. Bar fights give you +3 strength, and cash gain during a bar fight is based on how tough the enemy was, as opposed to the gym giving you +1 strength every time. But bar fights can end up wasting your time pretty bad because each attack's damage is random every time you use one. I just recommend you hit the gym for a while, and anytime you get crazy gains in strength, cash in by doing a couple of fights till it gets hard to stay alive. Also get around to buying the pocket knife from the pawn shop. The description for it says, +2 damage in close quarters. I never knew what this meant exactly, but use it early game and it should at least make your punches a tiny bit stronger. I know you see the gun there, and well, let's talk about that because it leads to the next part of bad karma money methods. So you got some cash, and you got some skills. Where do you go now? Well, y'all with the bad karma? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Pick up that gun. And the phone too, I guess. So, next step up is to rob the convenience store. You can do this by pressing the new button reading Rob the Place. Doing so might net you a lump sum of cash. This is where it gets kinda weird, so bear with me here. Robbing stores is partially based off of the third and final main stat, Charm. You have a random chance to be successful when you rob stores. The other part success is based on is pure, blind luck. You can increase the chance of successful robbery by way of increasing your Charm. If you want Charm, go to the bar and drink some beer. The reason you might not want to rob a store is because if you fail, you go to jail for 4 days. And your gun gets taken from you, meaning you have to buy it again and any ammo for it. So that could potentially, suck for any run that isn't unlimited. So yeah, risky as hell. Oh yeah, the only other place you can rob is the bank. Success chances are lower, better work on that Charm, payout is bigger. And last to note, robbing places takes your entire day to do so. So do it at the end of the day to make the most of your time. Finally, those of bad karma can leave town to be a drug dealer. Doing so has to be done first thing in the morning, it literally says that, at the bus station. So you will need caffeine pills and the alarm clock. And, regardless of outcome, you spend the entire day. This is the worst offender for bullshit RNG in the game. Full disclaimer real quick, I've looked really hard for any kind of stats for drug deals, but I found fucking nothing. So assumedly this portion of the video could be super wrong with finer details, moving on. Alright, so, basically when you go to the bus station, you have a couple of options of where to go. So you pick a location and you probably got mugged. This is gonna happen a lot to you pretty much regardless of how well off you are. When you fail a drug deal, you lose all of your cash on hand, as well as end up spending all day, which happens even if you succeed, and your stash gets stolen. Wait, what's a stash? So let's run through how to do this shit correctly. Keep in mind that this has to take 2 days at minimum because of how the bus stop works. First, make sure your charm and strength are high. I've also heard having more bad karma ups your chances, so make sure that's max just in case. Get some commodities, keep it cheap and simple by buying bottles of beer at the bar. Start with like 10 or so. The more you have, the more likely you'll get caught by police, so test the waters first. Make sure you have a cell phone, and if you don't want all your money to be taken, then deposit all you got except for your chosen bus fare. If you have any time left in the day, build up some stats, or make sure you have caffeine pills. Sleep till next day, take a trip, and pray. So if you somehow get a buyer during a drug deal, you'll be given an offer for one of your entire stock of 2 commodities. The other commodity being coke, which you can buy for $400 each. Holy damn. Bigger risk-reward ordeal. Whether you fail or succeed in a drug deal, your chances of succeeding increase permanently. Your only indicator for this increased chance is checking your messages at home. There, because I didn't talk about it earlier, is where you can read received messages for several things you do in the game. promotions, drug deals, and miscellaneous events. That's pretty much it for bad karma jobs. Well, except for the offers your customers can give you, which can be lower than what you paid for when commodities are considered. Factor in the bus fare and cafe pills and blah blah blah. Look, I'll be completely honest, I don't like the bad karma methods for making money very much. They're inconsistent with RNG, their stat requirements aren't plainly listed, and they're incredibly risky despite not paying out well in my experience. I could be super wrong about all of those things, but the game isn't exactly doing those jobs any favors. If y'all have anything to add that I'm missing that might help Bad Karma's case, then please enlighten me, because I don't get it honestly. So how's Good Karma doing? Ah, yes. Riveting. At least it's consistent. So you make a ton of cash now. What do you do with it all? We mainly have two options here. First, a furniture store. This place sells you upgrades / new mechanics. And starting out, you can buy the Coma Snooze bed, which gives you more health when you sleep. If you want more to buy, then you'll need a bigger place. So remember when I mentioned a third option at the bank way back when? Yeah, that's buying real estate. Let's get a bigger apartment. This might take you a couple hours, and just letting you know, it's not gonna get easier with the other options. Let me put this in perspective. If you don't like this game enough, your playthrough is very likely to end at the bigger apartment. Each step up in housing becomes exponentially more impossible, as you likely have your main method of money making maxed out by this point. But the bigger apartment does have one caveat to this that might help. Go back to the furniture store, buy the computer. Congrats, you got access to the stock market. So yeah, stock trading. Do I have to explain how this works? Stocks change every day and can go up and down, and are supposedly the main methods players use to make money, which could work if you paired that with your daily job and a healthy bank account. That being said, this is where most players find the pacing of the game tanks to a crawl. By this point, you've already seen all that there is, meaning it's going to be a hell of a grind to go from your tens of thousands of dollars you can make to the $500,000 you need to buy the penthouse. Or God forbid, the fucking castle. That's why I said earlier that the average playthrough typically ends here. Well, what about the casino? What about the casino? Sure, it can make some money, but that's literally just luck. And the more money you have, the more annoying it is to press the bid buttons over and over again. The chances of winning any casino game are also really low anyway, so you can do it once, but don't expect it to help you earn your net worth all that much. What's with the car? The car can be hotwired if you have 400 intelligence, the highest single intelligence requirement in the game, dwarfing the next largest requirement by over double the intelligence. It lets you press C and drive the car anywhere you want, and because it's a toggle, and it's bound to C, which is immediately not close to either hand on the keyboard, means that I'd argue the skateboard is more useful, and also more accessible. The only other thing you can do is kill the kid that gave you the skateboard, keep giving him smokes and eventually he'll die, which only nukes your karma and gives you a message from an investigator, which doesn't amount to anything at all. Oh yeah, I guess there's a bum you can give your money to. He's sitting right by the casino. He'll raise your karma and give you some either meaningless banter or genuinely useful tips about the game, I guess. So what now? Well, we can continue to go down this route, slowly making progress until we buy all the houses / furniture, or we cheat. Make your name Jesus before starting the game. This will give you big stats and big cash increase, which is good if you want a nice early start, but this will just lead you to the boring part faster. So instead, type 1E25 into the bank and hit deposit until satisfied.
Holy hell.
Yeah, so the game doesn't like this too much, and to this day I don't know if it's a cheat code or some weird bug. I'm leaning towards bug because your results screen will say you're horribly down in the negative due to your bank account. Using Jesus, the game calls you a cheater anyway, so this one's cooler. Now that we have all the money we could want, we buy the penthouse along with all the furniture. You can buy a TV now, which increases your intelligence by 2 and uses hardly any time. It's free, because, you know, it's your house. Later we can buy a satellite dish, which gives you more options for channels, raising the other stats, which at this point is pretty superfluous. God. Superfluous. Whatever, you get it. What do I even need stats for anymore? I've already done all you've offered me. Why are you giving me ways to raise my stats? What's next? There's a mini fridge that increases your health regained when sleeping. Okay. And the rest are just upgrades that allow you to sleep to raise your stats by 1 upgrade for each stat. If you'll allow me to think overly critically here for just a sec and just say that all of these upgrades could have come way earlier, and if they did, they would have added a lot more consideration on how a playthrough would go. It sucks because they come so damn late. You don't get to use any of them in a meaningful way. Even if you move the furniture back by 1 house option, that would allow for much more thought and planning from the player, I'd feel. Anyways, we're almost done with everything the game has to offer, so let's continue. The final house for purchase is the castle. It costs a whopping $500,000 and has no new furniture you can purchase for it. It does have a defend your castle reference though, which is pretty cool. Other than that, it also acts as one of the prerequisites for the final way to make money. The highest paying and or easiest job in Stick RPG are the president or dictator jobs. Both have several requirements to meet before you can reach each position. For President, you need positive karma, 800 in all 3 core stats, $200,000 on hand, and the CEO job title at New Lines Inc., the good karma option for making money. You also need the castle like I mentioned before. For Dictator, it's the castle, 800 in all stats, and the only thing that differs is that you need $500,000 and negative karma. Weirdly, you also need to be a CEO still, but that won't be an issue obviously. If you meet either of these requirements, then you'll get a message asking if you want to run for either position. Do not, and I repeat, do not delete this message. Hit the OK button, otherwise you'll lose your one and only chance for this playthrough to become either. Upon pressing OK, you will have 3 options for the budget of your campaign. This is also luck-based, except for the last option, which has never failed me personally. So, you know, do that one. Again, I don't know the chances of winning for the other two, and the 50k might not be guaranteed, but if so, then it must be an absolutely tiny fail chance. Now, because of your government position, you make a hefty chunk of cash every time you go to sleep. Government official making money by doing absolutely nothing. Sure, there's a poignant commentary here. Moving on. So yeah, free money is kind of pointless this far in. In limited tide modes, getting to this point in the time frames they give you seems impossible. I could just be bad, but whatever. If there's anything else you haven't paid for by this point for some reason, you definitely should have ample cash. And if you did buy everything, then congratulations. You've done everything in the game. We don't have an ending or credits or anything, so let's just wrap up here. Let me start off by saying that I might have came off as disappointed or mad at the game. And the truth is I have issues with aspects of the game, especially the later your playthrough goes. Here's the thing though. This is one of the devs' earlier games, and it's the only one of those 3 games to be a simulator. There's a lot to get wrong here, but as it is, especially with the weirdly addicting gameplay loop, well, there's a reason it's on RTLG. I love the stupid little project that Skyboys made. As I've said before, I played this a lot when I was younger. As a child who was too young to work, I was also craving to make a living for myself. And that's not gonna change. The game's free, it's made on Flash, and it's almost old enough to drink. There's a lot to like here, and if you don't have any money but have a lot of time, it's not super fulfilling or gratifying, but it doesn't feel like wasting time, not to me anyway, which is usually the rule for Flash games, made to waste time for the most part. I'm in a bit of a weird spot here, because I feel like you'd only like the game if you played it back then. It's not just that it hasn't aged well, it's that the game has been on a dead medium that's hard to search for unless you at least know the name of the game. The truth is, if you're watching this video, then you know what Stick RPG is, and you're probably very surprised someone is wasting their time talking about it. That, or you've never heard of this game and you just need something to watch. That's how I constructed this video and how I hope that's how it comes across as. So if you felt nostalgic, then why not reminisce with me? The game's on Internet Archive now, still here, it never really left. Skyboys passed away from cardiac arrest in 2015, leaving behind a legacy of a company that helped bolster the skills of everyone at Next Gen Studios, and being an inspiration to those who played and loved their games. During the year of his passing, Next Gen Studios' last game was in development. It was then that his wife took over as a CEO, released the game to middling reviews, and fell radio silent. I'm addressing this because the news surprised me when I decided to do research for this video, but I also need to mention that this is as far as the timeline goes for this company at this time. And this is as far as I go when it comes to gathering information. And I'd advise you all to do the same. The topic is sensitive, and I feel we have enough information here as it is. But this isn't really the end of Stick RPG. Join me next time for the sequel, where every aspect of the game gets turned up to 11. I'll leave off with this. I hope all who worked at Next Gen Studios are finding themselves well, and I hope that you also enjoy your day. I have been Prince Mouse, and I hope I see you all for part 2.